Welcome back to Crawford-Clark Close-Up and our week of Mission Impossible movie reviews in the lead up to one of this summer's most anticipated blockbusters and the 6th instalment in the franchise, Mission Impossible Fallout. Before we get to the newest release, we need to take a look back at the 3rd instalment in the series, released 10 years after Tom Cruise brought Mission Impossible to the big screen. This time under the watchful eye of visionary director J.J. Abrams, responsible these days for steering the Star Wars franchise in the right direction, Mission Impossible 3 grabbed the rulebook and threw it out of the window on release in 2006. This would be a much more personal outing for Cruise's Ethan Hunt, with a lot more at stake and even more to risk. We open the film in a clever way, which we haven't seen before or since in the series. We get what we will later discover to be a flash forward to a scene that comes near the climax of the film, with Hunt strapped to a chair with the villain, this time around played by the late great Philip Seymour Hoffman, pointing a gun at Hunt's wife, threatening to kill her unless Hunt reveals the location of the rabbit's foot, something the villain is desperate to possess. It's the darkest opening in the series thus far, and the focus on close-up makes it all the more intimate and fraught. As the gun goes off, we launch into the shortest title sequence of the series to date. There's definitely no dawdling here, as director Abrams wants to launch us straight into the story. From here, we open with a gathering at Ethan and Julia's for their engagement party. It seems that Hunt is wanting to settle down, and he's found the one in Michelle Monaghan's Julia. Telling her family and friends that he works in traffic control, it's only when he receives a call instructing him to aid in a rescue mission for an Agent Farris, who he trained up and recruited to the IMF for field work, that he makes his excuses and jets off to Berlin, where he's joined by Ving Rhames' Luther, back for the 3rd outing, and new recruits Jonathan Rhys-Meyers and Maggie Q as Declan and Zen. Together they storm the warehouse where Farris is being held prisoner and escape with her, until Hunt is unable to defibrillate an explosive charge in Farris's head in time, and the agent dies on them. Hunt, devastated and full of regret for putting Farris out in danger, returns to Julia, who senses that something is wrong. In an emotional scene that brings out the complexity of his character and the choices he has to make, Hunt asks Julia if she will trust him, and she confirms she does. Hunt seems shocked and decides the time is right to marry her. There's a sweet ceremony held with just the two of them in attendance and a consummation of the marriage before we learn of the rest of the plot. Having recruited Declan, Zen and Luther, Hunt hears that Owen Davian, the mastermind behind Agent Farris's kidnap, will be attending a function at the Vatican. They need to break in, with Hunt swapping places with Davian, and break out with his briefcase containing the location of the film's MacGuffin mentioned earlier, the rabbit's foot. Cue the mask and voice recognition of Philip Seymour Hoffman as Hunt impersonates the character in a tense sequence in a bathroom and breaks out with his team. After Hunt interrogates Davian and dangles him from the back of a cargo plane, Davian is taken into custody before an enormous breakout plan involving devastation on a bridge. It's a huge action set-piece in the film, demonstrating some excellent stunt work from Cruise being blasted into the sides of cars and jumping between the gap in the bridge in order to try and stop Davian being rescued. Hunt knows that if Davian gets away, Julia is in danger. Davian has already stated to Hunt that whoever she is, I'm going to find her, I'm going to hurt her, then I'm going to kill you right in front of her. At this point, we need to talk about the brilliant performance from Philip Seymour Hoffman as the antagonist this time around. He's certainly the most effective of the 3 main villains so far, because his actions have the most personal impact on Hunt, and Cruise and Hoffman bounce off each other very well, Hoffman giving as good as he can get against Cruise when Hunt is strapped to the chair and has to watch Davian shoot his wife whilst he's being interrogated about the rabbit's foot. Also excellent, and a meatier role than afforded his predecessors, is the IMF Section Chief Brassel, with Lawrence Fishburne personifying the no-nonsense head of section who gets the best dialogue. We're also given an introduction to Simon Begg's Benji Dunn, working within the IMF as a computer expert, who will clearly be fleshed out more in later entries in the series, but injects some well-needed humour into proceedings this time around. There's a brilliant ensemble all round in this 3rd instalment, and as always, fresh blood in the film's visual style, with J.J. Abrams, fresh from his success on TV series Lost, climbing aboard to bring Mission Impossible 3 to the screen. There's much more at stake. The film has a breakneck pace from the outset, and it's the most personal mission to Hunt so far. Michael Giacchino steps aboard for composing duties this time around and delivers a hot score, bringing great pizzazz and flair to the action sequences and a beautiful theme for Ethan and Julia's romance. We have more exotic locations this time around than before, with Rome playing a big part in the second act of the film and Shanghai being the central location to wrap up the film as Hunt takes after Davian. The scene in which Hunt and Davian fight to the death as Hunt discovers Julia's location and Davian meets his comeuppance is our Crawford-Clark close-up standout scene. It's a memorable send-off for an effective villain, and we get a seemingly happy ending for Mr. and Mrs. Hunt. You could be forgiven after the mixed bag that was MI2 that, like Ethan, you'd been gone so long that you'd forgotten how good they really are, as Luther suggests to Ethan back in Berlin. The gap in release between MI2 and MI3 has been the longest to date in the series, 6 years, but audiences in 2006 were ready for the return of Ethan Hunt and his team. Director Abrams delivers a taut, engaging entry in the series with more at stake personally for Hunt, and up to this point, this is the film in the series to beat. Overall, Crawford-Clark Close-Up rates MI3...
Alrighty then.
What are your thoughts on the third instalment in the franchise? Where does it sit for you in your ranking of all the impossible missions to date? Let us know in the comments below, and if you like this review, please subscribe to the channel. You can find Crawford-Clark Close-Up on Facebook and Twitter, and you can email us your suggestions for future reviews on the channel, crawfordclarkcloseup@gmail.com. Stay with us, as next in our reviews is Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol from 2011, as we move closer to our review of the 6th and latest instalment, Fallout. Thanks for watching, and until next time, that's a wrap.